Hello guys, so we are now in Dubai at Token 2049 and here with you Anna Tutova, co-founder of Coins Telegram, and our guest Keone Hon, who is co-founder of Monad Labs, and they're developing layer 1 blockchain which is based on parallelized scalability, and it's as well EVM compatible. And congratulations as well on your recent fundraise of 225 million led by Paradigm, Coinbase and Electric Ventures and many others. So great to have you here, Keone.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Anna, and thank you.
Yeah, so you have as well background in quantitative development and jump trade. So, but generally, can you tell your story? How did you discover crypto first, and how did you get into industry?
Sure thing. So prior to Monad, I worked in the high-frequency trading space for 10 years. The last 8 were spent at Jump Trading, which is a major high-frequency trading firm in the space. So I was mostly on the traditional side, just trading futures, non-crypto instruments for a number of years, using machine learning to make really short-term price predictions, and then joined the crypto team of Jump in 2021, and specifically worked on Solana DeFi during the time that I was there, about 6 months, and then just realized that there was a huge need for a much more performant EVM, because the EVM was really the dominant standard for smart contract development. Almost all TVL and DeFi is in EVM, but in spite of that, the EVM was really not very performant, especially compared to Solana or other environments. So ended up leaving Jump and starting Monad at the very beginning of 2022, along with 2 other co-founders.
And how did the idea of starting Monad come to you?
Yeah, I think it just came from instinct, really, because knowing how computers, like what kind of performance you could expect out of computers, building a really performant trading system for a number of years. Yeah, it just really just came from intuition, because when we were building trading systems, every single instruction mattered. We were optimizing, looking at flame graphs, looking at the breakdown of bottlenecks in trading systems where a packet would come in, we have to send an order back out in hundreds of nanoseconds. So from that perspective, then looking at the performance of a blockchain where doing like 10 transactions per second, that's a budget of literally 100 milliseconds for every transaction, which is crazy slow by comparison. So it was just very clear that there are a lot of optimizations that were possible in the EVM. And at the same time, the space was really focused on roll-up scaling, so really focused on optimistic fraud proofs or ZK proofs for scaling. People weren't really focusing on the execution side. We just felt that it was really important to go deep on the execution side.
And why is there a need for another layer 1? And I see as well a lot of layer 1s now. You mentioned rollups, so a lot of layer 1s now shifting as well, the execution layer or data availability layer separately. So why did you decide to make layer 1, not layer 2, for example?
Yeah, I think that with any innovation that's really focused on performance, you need to offer a 10x improvement over what exists right now in order for it to be justified. So I think ultimately, like in the end game, when we get to the point where we have layer 1s that support EVM that have 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000 TPS, then there will be less of a need to make, that, the only possibility is if there's a 10x improvement from there, which is really, really tough. But right now, with where we are right now in terms of the scalability landscape, there's still a huge amount of improvement that's possible, which I think justifies all the effort that we put into scaling the execution layer. And then in terms of layer 1 versus layer 2, I think the major reasons why we focused on layer 1 is number 1, decentralization, number 2, performance, and number 3, cost. So from a decentralization perspective, we think it's really important that there's decentralized block production with a globally distributed set of nodes that are collectively responsible for producing blocks. Really important for censorship resistance, credible neutrality, to have this decentralized set of block producers. And the reality of the rollup space right now is that block production is extremely centralized there. So that's, from a decentralization why it's really important, from a decentralization perspective why it's really important, and then from a cost and performance perspective, these are tied together because high performance, there's a lot of capacity, then the cost can be low, but that's only possible if you optimize at the execution layer and address these bottlenecks that exist right now.
And in what do you see the value of decentralization?
The value of decentralization ultimately is that one, it creates the possibility for shared global state. So I always think of, like decentralized currency as coming from the fact that you have all these different parties around the world that can have common agreement about what the balances of, that new currency are, without, a single centralized entity that is just controlling all of those balances. So, decentralization is the fact that these balances can be are governed by a decentralized set of nodes instead of just one is extremely important for the credibility of that balance system as an actual store of value. I think beyond that, censorship resistance is really important. So it's really important that when blocks are being produced, that it's not just the same entity producing blocks over and over again. That way, if there's a subset of the node, the block producers that are censoring, there's still like the opportunity for your transaction to always get included because someone will come along who's not censoring.
And as well, getting back how you discovered first blockchain and crypto, which year was it and what was your first impression?
Yeah, I got involved in 2020, mostly because our high frequency.
Quite late.
Yeah, I know, right? It's because our high frequency trading team was just trading a bunch of cryptocurrencies and derivatives on cryptocurrencies. So initially it was just like, a bunch of assets that happened to be correlated. But then over time, after spending time in the crypto team at Jump, which was not just about trading, but also about research and investing and supporting projects, then we realized, our whole team realized that there is a whole lot more to the space than just the trading aspect, and also opportunities to make improvements.
And back then, did you invest into Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Solana, or any other altcoins back in 2020?
In 2020, yeah, I bought Bitcoin and Dogecoin first.
Why Dogecoin?
Well, I thought that the meme was really good, and I thought that, like from a store of value perspective, it was really incredible that Dogecoin had such wide distribution, so many people that cared about Dogecoin. They had a really strong community, like the subreddit for Dogecoin has a ton of people posting Dogecoin memes. So it was just like seeing the power of the community that made me really bullish at that time because I think Dogecoin is like 5 cents or something.
Do you invest currently into any meme coins? So what's your opinion on that?
I see, yeah. Unfortunately, I've completely missed out on the current wave of meme coins. Dog with hat and I guess Pepe before that. And
you're fully involved into your project, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's just, for me right now, I need to be very focused and can't have distractions of meme coin prices going up or down. But I do, appreciate the sentiment.
And as well, do you see your blockchain to be like specific for any applications, like for trading, for DeFi, maybe enterprise blockchain, or it can be for different variety of use cases?
Yeah, I think there's two major verticals. The first is high fidelity DeFi. We think that it's really important for users when using the blockchain for personal finance to have really cheap transactions. And that's not only from a gas fee perspective, but also from a slippage perspective. So like right now when users do swaps on Uniswap on Ethereum, they're very used to paying 1% or 2% slippage, which is crazy compared to traditional finance. So we need to help bring those costs of execution down, and that comes from really accurate pricing coming from market makers that are constantly updating their quotes to reflect fair value. So that's the first vertical. The second one is just any consumer-facing application. Like if you imagine playing a game of RuneScape, over the course of an hour, you might pick up 50 items. So if each one of those pickup of items is a transaction, you need that to be a tenth of a cent. That way, the 50 times a tenth of a cent is 5 cents. Like people, it's okay to pay 5 cents for an hour of RuneScape. It's not okay to pay $5 or $50, $500, like these much higher numbers, which would result from existing systems and their costs.
And currently you have as well your internal testnet, so can you tell more about it? How many developers do you have testing Monad?
Yeah, so internal testnet, or what we call DevNet, it's just completely internal right now. We're benchmarking and load testing corner cases. If you look at some of the recent issues that Solana has been encountering, or the other blockchains have encountered in the past.
Outages, you mean?
Yeah, it's like, it's just all of it's coming from these corner cases that are ultimately coming from like really high load, incentivized by proof of work coins that get launched or things like that. So we're trying to test a lot of corner cases right now, and then we'll be opening up the testnet to external developers in a couple of months.
And can you share as well your roadmap? When do you plan to make public testnet, and when do you plan as well to launch full mainnet?
Yeah, we'll be launching the public testnet in a couple of months, and we expect to launch the mainnet by the end of this year. The roadmap is really focused on, like I said, load testing and building robustness to a wide variety of scenarios, as well as preparing some additional features that help accelerate execution even further.
And do you plan as well to launch your own token?
Can't comment on that right now, actually, unfortunately.
Okay. What current activities do you have for the public, or public should wait still for the public testnet to do anything with
Yeah,
Monad?
for public testnet, we'll be supporting a number of developers that are deploying existing or new applications on the testnet as a way of getting user feedback. Beyond that, the Monad community is incredibly strong, having a lot of fun on Twitter and in Discord. And so that's another way for people to get involved even right now before the public testnet, just by checking out what's going on in the Monad community.
And can you share as well, like, what do you take from your quantitative trading experience, and what do you put from that into Monad? How is it correlated?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. Building a startup is, very multifaceted and challenging. I think the specific things that are relevant, it's been building a really performant system from scratch. Monad is completely built from the ground up. And there's been a lot of effort into looking at where the bottlenecks are and then addressing them by building completely new systems. So one example is MonadDB, which is the custom state database for storing Ethereum Merkle tree data natively on SSD. That's to address the biggest bottleneck in execution, which is state access. And that's been a really involved project because building any new database from scratch is a lot of work. There's a lot of new algorithms that we've had to come up with in order to really efficiently store and access and do compaction for and basically maintain this database on SSD. So it's just like the low-level optimization is something that's in common with high-frequency trading where every nanosecond matters.
And do you have any recent exciting partnerships you can share?
Yeah, there's a number of projects that are going to be deploying on Monad that we're very excited about. Balancer and PancakeSwap are two recent examples. In addition, on the third-party bridging side, Wormhole, Layer 0, and Axel are all going to be deploying on Monad mainnet day one. So excited to have good infrastructure support as well as applications on the mainnet.
And can you share as well some future plans for the development of Monad?
Well, our team is going to be continuing to add additional features. We're looking at some support for new precompiles that'll hopefully make it easier for developers, especially developers that are trying to use novel cryptography. There's a lot of EIPs that I think will make developers' lives easier, such as EIPs to raise the max contract size or changes to defend against reentrancy attacks. So just a lot of improvements that are being evaluated in the Ethereum ecosystem, where Monad is a good sort of test environment for those to get deployed.
And as well, what are the most exciting use cases in blockchain are for you?
For me, I think everyone has different opinions. I'm just excited about anything that will help onboard more and more users. I feel that gaming is a huge direction because there's so many gamers and it's very intuitive, and a lot of games ultimately create virtual economies that that are still like very siloed, and so it'd be great to break those silos and be connected to the rest of the virtual world. I think also just using DeFi for personal finance. This is an area where crypto has achieved product market fit. Stable coins in countries where there's not access to good banking, or where the native currency experiences very high inflation. The decentralized currency has achieved product market fit. So just seeing that grow to many more users, it's just another area I'm very bullish on.
And do you think DeFi can ever substitute completely banks, or maybe banks in future will completely shift it into DeFi?
I think a big portion of banking activities certainly can. Certainly borrowing and lending, certainly trading of liquid assets where there's a liquid market. Those centralized exchanges can move to the decentralized world. And I guess there's the potential also for more bespoke lending arrangements as well to end up getting tokenized and traded on chain.
And in your opinion, what do we need for the mass adoption of crypto?
We need better on-ramps, and we need better UX that's more intuitive, that doesn't necessarily require people to get familiar with the whole 12-word passphrase thing, as well as gasless transactions.
Yeah, that's true. And how do you see the development of the industry in the next 5 years?
I think that, in a lot of areas, it's like the progress seems slow year by year, but then when you go 5 years up forward or 10 years forward, there can be massive changes. So I think that in the next 5 years, we'll address, as an industry, a lot of these bottlenecks in terms of on-ramps, in terms of UX, and then it'll be a lot more seamless for folks to use decentralized apps. Ultimately, my goal would be for something like a WeChat, where when people use WeChat, there's a ton of apps that are embedded within that application, and there's like currency already embedded in there. You can buy services, you can order food, you can order a car, you can like do a lot of things all within the app. So I think some experience like that, where the user's experience of using crypto is just that there's all these interconnected services, all in the same shared global state, same environment. That's the dream, that's the goal. And I think 5 years from now, we could see mass usage of that kind of system.
And how do you see as well the current state of the market, and for how long will this bull market last, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's pretty exciting that Bitcoin is almost at all-time highs, and there's still not that much retail awareness of crypto right now. Like the Google searches are not that high in terms of people searching for cryptocurrency. Not that many people's like relatives are texting them to ask them about crypto right now. So I think that is a good starting point. It's a sign that there still could be a lot ahead. I think the ETF is quite big, Bitcoin ETF, in terms of just creating a efficient vehicle where traditional players can invest in Bitcoin without paying 2% fees to Grayscale. So I think the efficiency was a huge deterrent, and the fact that that's been removed, there's an efficient way for people to allocate to Bitcoin, definitely is a huge unlock for the industry overall.
And do you invest yourself into any altcoins?
I do not. I own a little bit of Bitcoin and a little bit of Ethereum and a little bit of Solana. But yeah, just not trading right now because I think it would just be distracting.
Nice. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your developments with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.